Welcome to the Truth About Real Estate Investing show. My name is Erwin Cito, and how are you? I hope all is well. With the data that matters to me is with hospitalization numbers coming down, in Ontario that is, Canada in general, the outlook is good that life will continue towards normalcy, and I hope you're all evaluating your own comfort levels and taking advantage of the loosening restrictions. Personally, I've had my real estate coaches over to my home, so they're my realtors. They come over to my home for our barbecue lunch on our back deck. We are hard workers. We're also a family. We're a very silly bunch of very hyper-competitive A-types that like to joke around and have a good time. And it was great to see them all in my house. It was the first for them to be in my home, a chance for me to show off my barbecuing skills, which included a huge grease fire to keep things interesting. I've also taken advantage of many patios and even indoor dining, because we had a thunderstorm just recently, to reconnect with some old friends from the real estate world, including Joe Correa, who's a manager at Keyspire, Jamie Collard, who's buying every multifamily property in sight, Charles Waugh, who's developing every piece of real estate in the site, former Airbnb executive Daniel Dubois, who is a past guest of the show. We took in a private golf lesson and hit the patio afterwards. It's pretty cool to hear his opinion on Airbnb and also what he's up to with life at Key. I'm personally loving all the networking and catching up with all these dynamos that leave me inspired and generating new ideas for myself to grow business and invest. If you too miss live meetups, our plan is to host live events starting this September. And if you're on my email list, you'll already receive the invites to register. If you're not, go to www.truthaboutrealestateinvesting.ca, type in your name and email on the right, and you're good to go. Like the other couple of thousand investors in Canada. In case you missed it, I am delivering free demonstrations again for the Stock Hacker Academy, and we'll have a limited number of seats available in our offices in Oakville, Ontario. Again, I'm excited to be speaking to people live and in person again on side hustles that actually work. And again, those on our email newsletter will be notified of the next dates and how to register. Just to repeat, these demonstrations are for free, and I hope to see you there. So on to this week's show. One of my favorite things to do in this world is to make a difference in other people's lives. But not just anyone, preferably those who put the effort in to get ahead in their life, and then I might give them a little push along. That brings us to Joel Arndt, who reached out to me over a direct message on Facebook just a while ago, followed by We Didn't Ask Me Anything on my podcast, where Joel asked me questions and I answered. Then 6 months ago, Joel was back on the show, sharing his investment successes. Now we are 6 months later, and I wanted an update on Joel. And he's our millennial former barista. He's back on this show to share about his investment journey, to talk about real estate, stock hacking, and even a bit about cryptocurrency. If you too are starting out in your journey or know someone who's starting out, you may want to share this episode with them. All you veteran real estate investors out there know it's harder than ever to cash flow, but young Joel is here today to share how he managed a 30% cash-on-cash return as a beginner stock hacker in his first 12 months. So you real estate investors know how difficult it is. So again, Joel did it. Don't forget though, Joel has now heavily invested in his education, and past results do not predict the future. But I do hope you enjoy the show. If you want to follow Joel, his Instagram handle is Joel Makes Money. Enjoy the show. Hello, Joel.
What's going on?
That's my question for you usually. What's keeping you busy these days?
Marketing, stock market, crypto, and my daughter.
That's a mouthful. So where to start? Actually, no, let's start with, so it's been a while since you've been on the show. It's been, I think it was fall last time you were on the show.
I don't remember.
I think it was October. So we've gained a few listeners. I think we're up to 18 now, up from 17 last week, I think. So we're gonna rehash some of the stuff. So even before you reached out to me back in April 2019, like what were you up to, and then what caused you to reach out?
I was investigating, jumping fully into financial or into real estate and trying to get something going with wholesaling. Had a deal under my belt, and then
Sorry, just explain wholesale real estate.
Mhm.
So you're being an intermediary for off-market deals.
finding off-market deals. So a lot of marketing, but a lot of guerrilla marketing. So for me, it wasn't pay-per-click or anything like that. It was finding derelict houses, finding out who owns it,
Mm-hmm.
sending a letter to the tax to wherever the tax bill is being sent,
Mm-hmm.
and then hoping for a response.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea is that I would offer them a price for the house, severely discounted because, if it's that in a certain shape, certain condition, there's probably some sort of motivation or there's some sort of pressure on them.
Mm-hmm.
And I can, if they just need out and they don't want to go through the typical processes, then I can make them an offer, give them a quick and easy out, and instead of closing on the property myself, shop that contract to other investors who can close on the property,
Mm-hmm.
or who do want to close on the property for a fee.
Mm-hmm.
So assign, the legal term is assign the contract,
Mm-hmm.
and take a fee for that assignment.
And how much did this education cost you, plus the marketing costs?
Plus the marketing, yeah. Okay, so the education was $6,000 or $7,000, and that was split with someone else. So the full price was like $13,000.
American or Canadian?
That was Canadian, thankfully.
But it was an American organization?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Dumped another no, not quite. Probably close to $3,000 into marketing, and so altogether anywhere from $9,000 to $10,000 spent to try and get wholesaling rocking.
And how many hours of your time?
Yeah, it's uncalculable. I was doing evenings and weekends. At one point, I was getting up at 3 a.m. to put out bandit signs and message landlords and do whatever I needed to do.
Evenings and weekends for how long? 6 months? A year?
Would have started July. The summer for sure. At least 9 months. At least 9 months. At least up to the point where I wasn't doing bandit signs the whole time, but weekends I was going out and seeing properties and driving for dollars and just doing whatever I could with my limited budget.
Mm-hmm.
So that consistently was going on probably up until the point where I actually messaged you.
Mm-hmm.
So
what I'm trying to share with folks is, what you tried,
mm-hmm.
How much the investment that you made, not just the dollars, but your time. Now, can you share what the return was?
One deal, $5,000. And then hit a really frustrating point in 2019 because I continued to just try different things, trying to put in the right kind of action. And at a certain point, you ran out of room in my line of credit for marketing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so it all has to be manual. So handwritten letters, 100 at a time, dropping them off in mailboxes, going to a town hall.
Wait. You would handwrite 100 letters? You wouldn't take them to a printer?
Every week or two. A printer costs money, and at some point I couldn't afford to.
Photocopying costs money, but instead you hand wrote them all.
Yeah, and it's more authentic.
Did it work?
That's technically how I got my first deal, but that was the only deal I got, and I continued doing that kind of thing through 2019. Now, a friend of mine who had taken the same courses I had,
mm-hmm.
was also trying to kick things into gear. He had a little bit of extra cash, so we decided to go in on stuff together. So there was another push, more bandit signs, this time printing instead of handwriting them all. And this time we hit Hamilton, we hit Brantford, hit St. Catharines, and we made offers, but nothing really came of it. And the most interest we got was from municipalities telling us to take our signs down, or they were going to charge us $150 per sign, and we put up hundreds.
So I sorry for prying. That's kind of what I do. And again, I'm just here to just want people to know, like, share experience, because it almost seems like wholesaling is the new flavor these days, right? I've been around for a bit. The flavor used to be like quick turn real estate, which was similar to this, and that didn't work out well. I don't know anyone who stuck with it, because I remember being at an event where this was being pitched from stage, and I had lots of friends who signed up for it, paid thousands of dollars from it, from an American trainer, and I'm just naturally skeptical. I wasn't going to be the first person to get in, so I'd always stay in contact with my friends, like, how's it going? And it was funny because, like, it'd be like, oh, it's great, but I'm not doing it. Ask this person, they're still doing it. So then I asked that person, like, oh no, it's great, but I'm not doing it. Go ask this person, they're doing really well. And then sometimes they'd even send me to someone in Alberta. Well, like, that doesn't help me. I'm looking for someone in the GTA that's doing it.
Yeah.
So they go, okay, you talk to this person. And then I go look at the deal that they did, and it'd be a dog's breakfast. Like, literally, not literally, figuratively is the proper word. The house that they transacted on, so this investor bought a house on King Street in Hamilton. So it's a busy street. And then she asked me to have a look at it. So, I'm curious. Just naturally curious. I always like to look at real estate. So I came to the house, and as I'm walking towards the front door, I'm like, hey, did you notice this? On the corner of the property, there's a massive crack in the corner, stone.
Oh, no.
I'm like, hey, did you notice this? It's like, no, I didn't notice it. Like, there's a crack in your cornerstone in your house, right? And she's like, oh, no one said anything about it. Like, oh boy. Like, it's called a cornerstone for a reason. It's pretty important to the foundation of the home. And then I come into the property, and it's a mess. There's a hole in the roof. Like, they probably had a massive roof leak. And so what I led to believe was it was such a bad property that it couldn't sell.
Yeah.
Except to someone who was willing to do that deal.
Yeah.
And then the postscript was, I think they had to renovate the crap out of it, and they eked out a tiny profit after all that effort, right? So at least they didn't lose money. In hindsight, they probably wouldn't have done the deal. But that was my early experience with that style of investing. But again, like, but you and I personally know people who are successful at this, and hence we try to copy what they do. So for folks listening, I'm not saying this doesn't work, but do have a healthy sense of skepticism, and make sure you're learning from people that actually can make this work, because they're doing something right.
Yeah.
Something that we didn't do.
I think timing mattered. I think there was and I don't want to completely shift the blames or like. So when I came into the market, like, the houses were at incredible prices compared to now, but even at that point, like, people are talking about the amount of appreciation that had happened. Like, Hamilton prices have probably doubled at that point in the last 5 years, and it hasn't slowed down. And other than 2018. So when I came in, like, it was recovering from the mortgage stress test rules, and it was coming back up, and so there was that initial dip, and it's just been on this rampage since. The market shifted to probably the worst conditions possible for wholesaling to be like the thing, the go-to thing. Because even when talking to the mentors in the course, the markets that they were working in were flat, depreciating,
Oh, so it's easy to pick a property.
Yeah, Alberta, Saskatchewan as well.
At the time.
Yeah. And then they were also operating in D class, like D to C class neighborhoods.
Oh, okay.
So it's just a very different, and it's not to say that it can't happen somewhere else, but the opportunity is ripe in those kind of environments, right? What we find ourselves in right now, I've had trouble with, to be quite frank. I haven't found as much success with it, so I've had to pivot, and maybe it's a temperament thing. I am not the salesperson I wish I was, and that's been a big realization over the last 6 months. I don't have a natural instinct that I see in some friends who do have it for some of this. For that, like for wholesaling, like there's like this like almost rabid dog is not the kind of terminology I want to use, but that there's just this like they latch on and they don't let go, and I'm much more like I want to be an inviting person. I don't want to be so it's a massive step out of my comfort zone to have to become a person who is going to be insanely persistent, like that, on people like that. I can be persistent in other ways, but it was starting to really like it just takes a lot of effort, and I've realized that it doesn't take me any effort to come up with a sweet hook that draws people in. Like marketing is something I'm strong at. I can tell a story that will invite people in, and I will have their ears that way and their attention and be able to build trust with them a lot easier. Some people are fantastic at knocking on doors, interrupting someone's day, and instantly grabbing their attention and grabbing their trust. I don't know how they do it. I've studied all the techniques. I'm terrible at it. And maybe I just haven't given it enough persistence, but I can create something, and I feel way better creating something that draws people in and draws their intrigue and interest and curiosity,
right,
where they actually want to listen in that manner. So
that's okay. You have other talents.
That's what I've
and this market hasn't been favorable for wholesalers, at least in our market.
Yeah,
just being an absolute seller. This is the worst sellers market I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And again, folks, I'm not saying that you can't do this, because we know people who are doing it, who are unsuccessful doing it. Hopefully we can get some of them on the show. Yeah,
absolutely. I would love to talk to someone who started this year, last year, 2019, and has just been booming. Because it will be a case study for myself. Everybody I know of who's successful right now started 5 to 7 years ago.
Yes.
And so they had they have momentum that's carried them into this.
We had Aaron Moore on the show. Sorry. You wanted someone more recent start.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
I'll see if I can get Dave Knight on. So he doesn't listen to the show. But if anyone knows Dave Knight, tell him we need him back on the show. All right. So we have lots of other stuff to talk about, because your journey's actually gone really far. Because even in your update, what you're up to, you didn't even mention real estate.
No.
Let's talk about stock market.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because last time you were on the show, we were talking about your stock hacking efforts, your journey, and that episode was actually the #1 downloaded podcast of last year. So I don't know why it took so long for you to get back here. You're a busy guy. You're hard to get a hold of, but finally you're back. So the title of that show, and we just re-released it, because honestly it's summer and we're busy. I can't believe how busy we are this summer. We're busy. We re-released that episode, and it was titled "How Joel Arndt Cash Flows 4% a month, $400, $400,000." Yeah. Right. And then you were on a tear.
Yeah.
Right. You were on a tear. You were actually doing better than $400.
My best month
for that stretch.
Yeah.
Right.
My best month was January. I made $2,200 in January. Realized profit.
Right.
That was pretty cool.
But you gave some back.
Oh man, yeah, gave January back, and I made $900 in February too. But February is when the losses started, because that's when the market turned. The rotation out of growth into a lot of what we would call value stocks. So I don't know,
like Dow stocks.
Yeah.
So like the oldest and boringest.
Yeah, exactly. These industrial stocks that have been around for 125 years, and whatever, like Walmart and
banks. We'll get the banks in a bit.
Oil.
Oil.
So and I was primarily holding, and I don't have a massive portfolio. So, and I was just playing the positions that were going to make me money. And at the time, it was growth. I had no idea how fast it was going to turn. I thought I was going to have a bit more of a warning sign, and it didn't. And then if I had actually held on to most of my positions, or rolled some of them, which I did, and actually they worked out when I finally did start. So when I say roll, it's just a risk mitigation factor. It's a move to kind of delay the inevitable, and hopefully the winds turn in your favor in that added time period.
But if we want to talk back, if you want a little bit techno babble, you're going to reduce your margin requirement. You're going to get the stock for a cheaper price.
Yep.
So it's kind of winning in that way.
Yep. And so less money used, cheaper average cost, and yeah. But I stopped out, so I saw like 100 or 200% loss on some of them, and I just closed them at the loss. I said, okay, I'm done. If I had held on probably through to April, May, would have seen recovery, but my approach at the time was get in, get out, get in, get out, get in, get out. Quick. Velocity of money, more trades, more profit.
Right. And just to give some folks some context, it's not like you're not good at what you do. It's just the sector that you're in.
Yep.
Right.
I was very, very heavily, I leaned very heavily on tech and growth.
Yeah.
Like Tesla and what was one of the bigger losses? I don't even remember.
Nothing Bitcoin related?
At that time, not as much. I was just starting to dive into Bitcoin. Maybe Riot. I probably lost some on Riot.
Yeah. So sorry, folks. That's actually the name of the company. They are a miner of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Right. So that stock is heavily influenced by the price of Bitcoin. Right? Just because the underlying asset that they mine, their business is to mine Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin prices go down, then the stock goes down as well. And then again, I wanted to give some context. Like, you and I are long-term bullish. So even if we're taking short-term losses now, we're not too worried.
No, we'll talk about crypto in a bit, but right. Like that, yeah, that's I'm very confident in the companies that I've looked at anyway. But so in any case, rotation happens. Big people with all the money are taking the cash out of growth stocks, putting it back into safer value stocks. I get caught in that, trying to hedge and mitigate, and did. So I probably could have lost a lot more, but thankful for all the education and all the exposure to all that Stock Hacker Academy has provided, because it could have been an absolute bloodbath. But and then just learning patience. There, if I had waited a little bit more on certain, and this is always, hindsight's always 20/20. You never so the last few days have been pretty red. And I'm just waiting. I also made the trades that I have in my account right now with a little bit more long-term view. So that whole episode, I made $2,200 in January because I was taking risks and I was taking on positions probably bigger than I'll say should have. I don't know. I could keep doing that now and I probably could have recovered faster. But I'm not just this is essentially my life savings in there. I need to not treat it as an income account. I need to not be trying to push this. What I do plan to do, hopefully by the end of the year, is I'm going to take some of the profits and put it into another account and that I'm gonna, because it was so much fun.
When you're making that much money, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and even with losses, like, there is a certain thrill to it. The ups and the downs. That's why roller coasters are so crazy. Like, going up, it's only fun because it's going to come down and ride. You're going to ride through some loop-de-loops and stuff like that, which is weird because I hate roller coasters. But anyway, I like making those, higher leveraged or bigger plays on riskier plays, but not like completely. It's not like I'm not just. So here's a term for you. I'm not just aping in, which is this idea of just going all in and like guerrilla mode kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Very dangerous.
Yeah, exactly.
Opinion, not advice.
I'm not just aping into something and like crossing my fingers and YOLOing, I guess, is probably the term that most people will. I'm not YOLOing on these. I'm actually, so a Tesla trade that hurt me was Tesla was at $950 or something like that in January. I'm like, sweet, I'm going to make a trade at $750.
Oops.
$200 less.
Oops.
And it tanks.
Yeah.
Hits, I think I saw 512 at some point.
It took a while to get there, but yeah.
Yeah. And so I had to, at some point, I just had to take the loss.
Right.
So it's, there was no accounting for that from that I did. I didn't. I think some people knew that something like that was coming. I mean, the coach of our advanced course, Eddie, he was sitting pretty cash heavy during that time, so he obviously understood that something was coming. But
it's too expensive. It's too high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
the price had gone too high. The whole market went too high.
I was still making moves with technical analysis and with. And even a little bit of fundamental analysis. So this wasn't just, hey, someone says this is a good play, I'm going to do it. No, it's, okay, well, these are support levels I feel like will stick. And just the nature of the market blew past all of those support levels. Mm-hmm. So what we're seeing. But
you stopped out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you actually probably did better than a lot of people.
Maybe. Yeah.
And so, last time you were on the show, you were killing it.
Mm-hmm.
And then just for context, you're still up.
Yeah,
considerably.
Yeah.
Can you share what your return is over the last 12 months?
I think it's like 30.8%. I'm at, so I entered.
That's terrible.
Right? Yeah, no, it's been fantastic because even with that, it's just it's an ego bruise to see
to be up 30%.
No, to be up 60%.
Yeah, yes. But you're learning. You are learning. Like, we're all learning.
We're all learning.
I feel like I'm learning every day.
Mm-hmm.
Every day.
Yeah.
Right. To me, I always have that white belt mentality. I literally am still a white belt in blue jiu-jitsu. But even when still every day is learning to me. So Oh yeah, I was up in February. I was up on one point 40% on the year. I should just nuke the account right there.
Yeah, close all positions.
Close all positions, and then ended up giving a whole bunch of that back. But stuff goes up,
mm-hmm.
and it comes down a lot faster
than
it went
up.
Yeah, and that's the lesson.
Yeah,
and that's the truth
mm-hmm.
about what we do, right?
And what I learned about myself was.
And then just to finish that point,
mm-hmm.
and when the elevator does come crashing down, like hopefully you followed your stop losses,
mm-hmm.
like you did,
mm-hmm.
and then when you feel comfortable about getting back in, that's opportunity.
Yes,
right? I find it's the people who don't do what we do, people outside our community, not just outside our community, but people who know very little about the stock market.
Mm-hmm.
They're always about, what about crash? What about crash?
Yes.
Which is funny because you still hear it from some real estate investors.
Yes.
Because when you talk to a real estate investor, like, what if it crashes? What if it crashes? Almost all real estate investors are like, I'm buying. Right? Talk to any real estate investor about what are your regrets from 2007, 2008, the financial crisis. Like, I wish I bought more.
Yeah.
But it's funny because it does not translate to stock or novice stock people or stock option people. It's like, what if it crashes? What if it crashes? They're all concerned about losing money. Like,
mm-hmm.
you can exit really easily.
Yeah.
And then you can get in at the bottom.
And
like those opportunities are gifts.
Real estate investors learned how to take advantage of, like, the first thing any course teaches you, any networking thing is going to teach you, is the market cycle, the market cycle of real estate, the boom and bust cycle. Even though we haven't seen that really in the last 12 years.
Yeah, the busts are very muted.
And so that actually makes the stock market scarier, because people have gotten, this is an assumption, I'm assuming that people have gotten used to the muted bust cycle of real estate in the last 12 to 15 years. And so when they see a natural 5 to 10% correction probably once a year in the stock market, which is healthy and necessary, it scares them. Because comparatively, they don't see that happening in their real estate. Whereas if it actually, if your real estate went down 5 or 10%, you're shrugging.
Yeah.
You know, and for people who study the stock market, even give the stock market enough time, the same amount of time like they gave real estate, they would understand that they'd shrug too. And just like real estate, you don't have to play the stock market to the same way. Like everybody, one of the beautiful things about Stock Hacker Academy is the Facebook group, where everybody's taught the same strategies, but then you see how they develop those strategies for themselves. You take notes, and then you develop your own strategy. And it just permutates into an incredible little jungle of wealth creation, essentially. Anyway, that was a tangent. I don't know.
And just to clarify, that is a private Facebook group for our students only.
Yeah.
Because people are going to ask, how do I find it?
Yeah.
Take the course. It's that easy. So it's funny. Like before we connected, like you're pretty heavily invested into real estate.
Yep.
And again, in your update, you didn't even mention it.
No, because
why? Yeah. Why the shift? Why the shift from so heavy to real estate to more crypto and stock options?
Accessibility. Real estate is a lot more inaccessible. It's not completely, I'm not going to say it's inaccessible, but it's a lot more inaccessible than the stock market is, and than crypto is. And
I know you can't speak for that whole generation, but would that be something a common feeling among millennials?
If you look up how to invest in the stock market, it's all millennials. If you look up how to invest in real estate, there are millennials in there, but a lot of it is, I'd say, like Gen X and boomers. Gen X is a lot of Gen X, because they came up when they hit their adult years. My God, was it a perfect time to buy real estate? And relative to income levels, their income levels versus the price of real estate, versus our income levels versus the price of real estate. It's a very broad strokes view of things. I get that, and it's not going to be applicable for anyone. And anybody who has the dedication and drive is going to be able to get into real estate.
And rich parents.
Pardon?
And rich parents.
And rich parents. Yeah. It's possible, but on a broad strokes level, where's the opportunity? And for me, the opportunity has, like, stock hacking, the stock market is an opportunity, and I'm looking at crypto, and it's not easy, but it's the internet in the 1990s, early 1990s, and anybody who created sustainable, solid, like, businesses in the internet at that point, even if they failed, there are a lot of names who are big internet, not influencers, just a wrong term because it takes on such a different connotation nowadays. They are movers and shakers, and in the field of internet and technology and stuff like that. But they started in the 1990s.
Right. I had a lot to unpack there. So actually, let's start off with, because when we had lunch, you were asking about investing in real estate. I don't know if you remember, but you were talking about buying
in North Bay,
2 houses in North Bay.
Yeah.
But then I asked you your question, what is your objective? And you said cash flow.
Cash flow.
So then it's like, why don't you do? I think at that point you'd already done Stock Hacker Academy at least 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
So I asked, like, if that's your objective, why not this?
Yeah.
And then in hindsight, what would you have thought? What would you say if you got 30% cash return?
Oh man. Yeah, I don't know it, and to not be, in North Bay's rents have gone up so much. My sister's moving there, and she's, but they have to rent before they can buy because the bank wants her husband to have a bit of at least 6 months history at a job in North Bay before they give them a mortgage. So the rent is like they're renting a full house, and it's almost as much as rent of a full house in Hamilton, but the prices are half. So the cash flow could be there, but it's leveraged. It's leveraged, which is interesting. You could get some appreciation. I don't know if appreciation is going to hold in North Bay. It's typically a very small appreciation city. It doesn't, but COVID accelerated a lot of things. I don't know if that's going to stick. It doesn't really matter, but with stock hacking, I'm not leveraged at all. And some people would see that as a weakness. Like, well, you don't get the full value of, like, you don't get the mortgage pay down, you don't get, you don't get then the rent and stuff like that, and the appreciation. Sorry, that's the big one, the other big one. And I do get appreciation because I'm not just doing stock options, I'm also doing stocks, so I'm getting some appreciation on those. I don't have to leverage these positions, although there is a little bit of leverage involved, but that's a different story. But I can manage that on my own. I am not subject to the bank. It is, for the most part, my terms. And so, and it's way more efficient. Like, so could I get 30% cash on cash return on an investment in North Bay? Maybe, but I don't have to manage a property manager. I don't have to worry about repairs and maintenance. I don't have to worry about tenant screening and
heating costs. I hear it's cold up there.
Right. Yeah. Minus 30 at least 2 months of the year.
Wow.
So, so like
pipes freezing? Is that
pipes freezing is a big concern. That's going to happen at least once a year if it's an older property. You have to, if you're buying an older property, you can almost bank on the pipes freezing unless the previous owner spent the money to dig up the pipes and either insulate them or heat them.
The pipes in the ground, the water supply in the ground.
Yeah. Now,
see why I invest in Hamilton? It's a lot warmer down there.
So, I mean, it's I still like I'm it's not that I'm anti real estate.
Because you are getting into some.
I really want to get into some. It's more.
Well, you are.
Yeah.
You are getting into some.
I'm going for myself. I'm going to find something for myself and find a fixer-upper at some point. Put the work in myself, majority of it anyway, and then house hack it, and then duplex it, and then triplex it, whatever, So
we'll get there.
We'll get there. It's not that I don't want to do real estate. It's just path of least resistance.
And you're not super money hungry.
No,
unlike a lot of listeners and people who have been on the show, which is totally fine.
Yeah, I have a much calmer temperament towards money. I'm not driven by money. I like making money in the sense that it's a fun game, but that's about where it ends for me. And then I get anxious when I don't have enough, like everybody else does. But some people, it was a big eye opener when I actually came into this world, real estate, and then even working for you guys, and just getting to know people and just seeing like a lot of people, like that's their drive, and it's not. Well, I think for some people it is an unhealthy thing, but in most of the people in our network, it's not an unhealthy thing. It's just this is how they will measure their net worth and allow that to inform their life. And the beautiful thing is you can still do that and say, okay, my net worth is this much, but my relationships suck. So I need to do something to figure that out because it's not, so there is still healthy connections, but I'm not one of those who's driven by net worth.
And also because you enjoy your day job.
I enjoy my day job. I want to create things.
I'm not trying to put words in your mouth.
No, I
you work
do.
Here.
I get to. So I was actually telling this to someone last week. I was like, what I enjoy most is I get to come in. I get to there's a lot going on, and sure, it can be stressful, but it's a growth stress, not like a static stress. That was my job before. It was just like I always felt like I was trying to do something new, something to push things forward, and it was just never going to happen. I love the people. I miss the people at my old job. The job itself, I'm happy to be here. And
you like everyone though.
Yeah, I mean, there have been a few, but they're Class A D-bags. So
fair. It's their problem, not yours.
Exactly. The stress of the growth stress is a position I'd much rather be in, and I get to create something here. So at the end of the day, if I have something, even if it's a video script for a sales page video, there's a level of satisfaction in that for me. So I don't see seeing a GCI, and I should have clued in when I did that first deal, but I didn't understand it. I remember thinking this. I got that check from the first wholesale deal, and it made no difference on me. Some people quote getting that first check and being like it was a life-changing thing, even if it was a small amount or whatever. $5,000 is not and was not inconsequential for me, especially at that time. And it didn't faze me. I was driving home from the lawyer's office, and I'm looking at this. I'm like, oh, okay. It wasn't like, and I'm like, I thought this would feel better. And so I've learned now, because like that, again, that's not my driver. What drives me is at the end of the day, there's something I've put out into the world that people can interact with. And that has taken energy, something that didn't exist before, mm-hmm. right? So
interesting. Because before we were recording, I was asking you about how do you feel about being an influencer? Because one of the top questions with Stock Hacker Academy that we get from people interested in the program or people who are new to the program is they ask, how much do I need to start with? Right? And then there's no perfect answer. But then when you did what you did with $10,000, mm-hmm. So then we had you present at one of our meetups, and you've changed some lives.
Yeah, crazy thought.
Right. We got a message yesterday from a past student who took the beta version of the course, which was largely about selling just naked puts or cash cover puts, just one strategy, and then she quit because she had a small account. She couldn't do much with it. And then I was chatting with her and asked her how she was doing. And she told me what she was up to. I'm like, hey, why don't you talk to Joel? Joel has the same bankroll, and he's doing phenomenal, right? And I don't forget, I think we already had you present as well at that point, and we nicknamed you the spread master.
Yeah,
it's the technobabble term. It's a joke, folks.
Yes. Tongue in cheek.
Tongue in cheek. It's a ridiculous name.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a kung fu master play, but it's specifically to do with stock hacking. But yeah, then you shared what you were doing with a smaller account, and again, so we had a past student reach out, and her life has changed, mm-hmm. right? From giving up to learning. To relearning to forgetting what she thought she knew and relearning it, mm-hmm. and now she's saying that she'll make 20% this year already.
Man,
to date.
I remember on the last podcast talking about her and saying, I hope she can weave this all together because I know it'll work out for her. And so to see her post yesterday and this morning was like just this breath of fresh air, because it changed her life, and this is what I've experienced and what I've seen so many other people experience. It doesn't have to be. There can be a lot of weeds. There doesn't have to be. It just, for some people, have to approach it differently, and once they find that niche, that groove, where things start clicking for them. I'm seeing this time and time again, and this is where
it's like you said earlier, everyone has to find their own way.
Yeah.
Because we teach a lot of because they're no different than real estate investing.
Yes.
However everyone started their real estate investing, they figured out their own path.
Yeah.
Right? Like when I started real estate investing, it was basically just buy and hold single family homes, right? A lot of encouragement for Alberta. Thank goodness I didn't go. Right? A lot of encouragement just for single family homes and multifamily, like multifamily meaning like apartment buildings. I did some singles, and now my strategy is largely student and duplex, which I learned much further down the road on my own, not at that group where I started learning, right? Like my investment strategy evolved to what suited me.
Yeah.
Right. And no different with stock hacking.
Yes.
Like, but folks have to first of all continue to learn.
Yep.
First they have to learn what we teach them, and then from there they can evolve to what works for them. Because again, like she's in a different age category than both of us, right? So what's comfortable for her is going to be different than us.
Yep.
Right. I'm dealing with a very small amount of my net worth. You're dealing with your life savings, right? Yeah. Very different risk profile.
Yeah.
Right. And again, like everyone find their own way, but a lot of people weren't practicing the strategies because they learned from our beta course. They only learned one strategy.
Yep.
But for folks who are open-minded enough to listen to what you were doing, it's made a difference. And now you're influencing people.
And it's super satisfying, like it's a bit egotistical, but so I was training, before all of this, I was training to be a pastor, right? So I always envisioned myself in front of people. So I've never had a fear of public speaking.
Mm-hmm. You love talking.
I love talking. I love talking to people. I love sharing. I love sharing what's worked for me. I love sharing my mistakes. I love sharing other people's mistakes and what's worked for other people. I just get excited about something and I want everybody to know about it. Mm-hmm. So when things shifted in my life and it became apparent that the ministry was no longer going to be a part of my life, I had to kind of figure out what else, like what was my life going to look like. And so now to see that, okay, I am having a positive influence on people's lives and it's meaningful and it has long-lasting impact. Well, first of all, it's what's the term when something is confirmed? I can't, I'm a writer and I'm constantly forgetting words. Anyway, it was confirmation of some decisions, a lot of decisions in my life up to this point. And it's super satisfying and to know that this isn't a purely selfish endeavor for me. I get to, if I can do this, have fun with it myself, have it benefit myself, and it gets to impact others. This is a package I've been looking for a while, since I've had to get rid of ministry. So
that's crazy, dude.
Yeah,
because you went from training to be a pastor. So your bachelor's is in religion.
Yep.
Right. And then when I met you, I'm sure you did some other things before I met you, because I only met you, how old were you when I met you? 2019.
30. What was I 31 yet?
Let's just use 31.
Yeah.
But anyways, when I met you, you were working for a coffee company.
Yeah.
Entry-level position. And now you're making better cash flow than you ever thought you would.
Yeah.
While influencing other people and helping other people. Sharing what's working for you and enjoying. Crazy, eh?
It is. It's definitely crazy. Never what I envisioned, and I'm okay with that. And I think that's the biggest point.
Did you ever think?
This self-awareness, I've talked about this before, but the self-awareness is such a huge piece, and I don't know if it gets talked enough. I don't know if people talk enough about it. Understanding who you are and what drives you, what your obstacles are, so that you can play to your strengths and work on your weaknesses, so that you know what your blind spots are, so that you can have people in your life who help, who make sure you're not going to cut anyone off, or when you do need to change lanes, like metaphorically speaking, you're not wrecking yourself. And this is something. So I'm divorced, separated last July. It's been over a year now. Like this whole year has really been about, who am I? What do I want? Everything I thought I wanted, even 13, 14 months ago, 12, 11 months ago even, not necessarily it. Like this whole shift from real estate to now the stock market and crypto, was a lot for me to accept at first, because I had put so much emotional energy into real estate, and even before that I had put so much emotional energy into being in ministry. Then I had to make that shift. And then I was real estate and putting so much emotional energy into that, and realizing that, okay, maybe this isn't the best opportunity for me, and making that shift. And so it's been this, it's not that those weren't for me, but there are elements of who I am in both of those phases that are kind of coming together now. And this isn't even the full realization of who I am, right?
This won't define you.
No, and I think that's it for everybody. Like, what have you gone through in your life, and what's the core piece that you've carried into your current moment? Even in trauma, what core piece did you carry through that trauma that is now still a part of you, and stuff needs to get healed. If you have trauma, you need to spend time facing that pain, because it's the only way it's going to get healed. But I hate cliches, but to be quite honest, what's the diamond in the coal, in the dirt, and that core of who you are, and then learning how to not compromise that. And I think that being uncompromising about that core of who you are, so a bit of spiritual dialect here. A author named Richard Rohr, he's a mystic Catholic priest. He has a book called The Immortal Diamond, and that's the biggest concept, is this piece of who you are that is uncompromisable, but it is forged through hell, and it's what will carry you through the rest of your life.
Could you apply that to our business?
I think business.
You've seen us go through a lot.
I think business plays it out in some of the most public ways possible. You see people's failures.
Or just pause for 1 second. So, folks, we did not rehearse this at all.
No.
I don't know what's going to come out of Joel's mouth. Sorry, continue.
You see, businesses try their best to keep PR positive. And for the most part, you can avoid most blow-ups, most private blow-ups becoming public. But even still, like, if a business is going to fail, it's going to fail, and that is public. And so money is an amplifier. It takes what already exists and amplifies it. So especially if you're making a lot of money, it's like the more money you make, you're just dialing up the amp. And if something's going to collapse, it's going to collapse big. If you're making a lot of money. So the more success there seems to be if that core is unstable, it will implode in the most spectacular way possible. Anyway, and business is people. So, we've been going through core values.
Right. Business is not just people, it's the right people.
Yeah.
Sorry, continue.
Well, you have to, if you don't have the right people, so on an individual level, if you don't have the right people in your life and you're getting either mixed messaging or just the wrong messaging, or if you get people who are contributing to your pain, to your trauma, so if you are carrying internal wounds, people have abused you emotionally or physically, and that hasn't been addressed. It's just something that you've been stuffing, and you have people in your life who constantly open those wounds up. It is not a good thing. If you are a business who has with flaws and flawed people, which we are all flawed people, and you have the wrong kind of people in especially in the wrong kind of places, or even just the wrong kind of people in the right kind of places, they may have the talent for that position but not the character, or even just a vision alignment, they are going to pull at those flaws. And the only way you know who will be right for that is if you know who you are as a business. And I think a lot of that stems from knowing who you are as a person. You're good at business. Like, you and Cherry know what know what you're good at, and you've put a lot of work into shaving down your roles to be able to focus on the things that that you are good at, and that are going to take the businesses forward in the smoothest way or the best way possible. And you are working diligently to make sure you have the right people in the right places to fill the gaps, to fill your blind spots, so that when you have to make a lane change, you're not cutting someone off or you're not wrecking the business. It's the same concept. That core needs to be solid, and that takes a level of hell to find. And I don't think it's like a one-time thing. I think, I remember a story. There was a gentleman who made frog tape, and he'd actually invented it with a partner, and I think they were good friends too. I don't quite remember. The short story is that partner eventually tried to take the intellectual property rights for frog tape and make it his own thing, and
that's not very nice to do.
And so what are you gonna? And so this legal battle ensues, and what are you supposed to do at that point, right? Like, this person who you thought was a best friend, and so the people you thought were in the right places still turned out to be still turned out to be a nightmare. So I don't think it's ever like one and done. I think we go through phases where, it's, again, cliche, but it's just it's observation. You see, you learn what you have to learn, and you essentially humble yourself to the lessons in the moment, internalize those, build off of those, and those prepare you for the junk that's coming. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the same. Like, it doesn't. So if you had personnel issues before, if you had a partnership blow up before, it doesn't mean that that's what's going to happen again. In fact, it probably means that now you're really good at choosing the people to have around you. So now you have this kick-ass team around you. Maybe the market goes nuts, or maybe you have some external forces. So that was an internal problem. Maybe now the trial is external, but you've got this team with you, and you're way more prepared internally to deal with this issue than you were before. You have no idea how to deal with it because it's a completely new issue, but you are much more prepared to at least approach the obstacle and start problem solving.
Because when we had problems in this business, specifically the Stock Hacker Academy business, I don't know if that was public, but it's sort of public. It's hard for me to tell. We don't have that many listeners of the show. Now looking back, one of our problems was we hadn't defined our core values as a company. And it was actually funny because, TAREI and I took ESL. So we're not the best at English. We're not the best with words. So we actually asked yourself and other members of the team to define what our core values are based on how we practice, right? Because to me, I just go, and then you and Megan, largely you, actually defined who we were with words, right? For example, so it's printed on our wall in the office. Do the right thing, learn more, to share more, like give back. I forget what the exact one was. What's the giving back one?
Success is best when it's shared.
Success is best when shared. And then only recently did it trigger in my mind that we had a previous relationship breakdown, and also we've had to let people go in this company because they didn't have the same values as we did, right? So I think it's a good tip for everyone here listening, all 17, 18 of you, plus Joel and I and Adam. So that actually gets us up to 20. Is that everyone should list their core values, and then anyone you bring into your business, into your investment, into your world, they should share the same values as you. There's nothing wrong with. I always love contrarian opinions, but I don't really necessarily want to get into a long-term relationship with someone.
You're not going to have
contrarian values.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're not going to have I'll say intimate relationship. That can just mean someone who has the ability to change or affect your decisions. You're not going to have an intimate relationship with someone who is pointed in a different direction.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, true.
you can have an amiable friendship, even a close friendship, and respect each other's positions, but you're never looking to go in the same direction. And understanding that actually helps you frame their input and internalize it properly.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean you ignore what they say, and it doesn't mean you take on everything that they want, but to have people like that directly inputting your direction will pull you away from who you are, and that's just a recipe for disaster.
Mm-hmm. And then what we found useful is when people that we work with deviate from our company core values, we remind them what it was and how we feel what they did deviated. So then it's clear what to do, right? Mm-hmm. How to move forward. And if they don't, we're going to have to part ways.
Yeah, it's your compass.
Yeah. So, and again, like, I think everyone should have these things. And you should be able to express that to your kids. Preferably, have it somewhere they can see it.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's in our boardroom. Everyone can see it.
I haven't made mine visible, but a large part of this journey has just been journaling through stuff, and consistently asking myself what I want, and so it's been a big redefinition for me in the last year. But the allowing those values to kind of refine and morph, and there are certain things I'll land on that I probably won't ever change, because they are part of who I am. How I express them might change, but I will always come back to those and be like, okay, is this still in my life?
Yeah, all the time.
If not, what do I need to get back to that?
Yeah. I always challenge stuff all the time. Why do I have this thought in my head? Why do I have this belief in my head? Why do we do this certain thing? Right?
Yeah.
And I think why you and I get along is because we're both really curious people. These are cue to wrap up soon.
Yeah.
But which is actually a good segue to what I want to talk about. Why we get along so well is because we're naturally curious people. I mean, we go down rabbit holes and see if it's worth our time. So one of the big rabbit holes you've gone down is cryptocurrency, which also wrapped in includes decentralized finance. So. But because you're like the office go-to on crypto stuff. Can you explain what decentralized finance is, what it means?
Yep. So if money, the world of finance is a sandbox. The way it currently works is the sandbox is guarded by a whole bunch of people in suits, and you can only play in the sandbox. You can only take like a bucket full out of the sandbox at a time and play with that bucket full at the whim of the people who guard the sandbox.
Right. Would that be the central banks?
Central banks.
So including Bank of Canada.
Yep. And then
the U.S., the Federal Reserve in the U.S.
Yep. And then around the central bank, the big five, and then around that large corporations, where the authority structure is centralized, where the authority structure focuses on a council, a board, an executive group, and a few people make the big decisions for the majority. That's centralized finance. It's just what we do right now. Decentralized finance, the sandbox is now completely open. There's nobody guarding it, and it's a scary concept, but now what's happening is people can come in and just start building. They can build whatever they want with almost unlimited resources. And resources not just being money, resources being manpower, being network power, and then also capital. And that's a very loose metaphor, but because the guardians, quote unquote, the gatekeepers now are essentially computer programs. They have a set list of rules, contracts. They are contracts. So there's still this agreement between each other of how things should happen, but it's literally been encoded and your interaction with the sandbox is governed by that code. That creates a whole other slew of problems on its own. So it's very much cowboy days, like Wild West right now.
Yeah, but the code is determined by the people.
Yep, the code is determined by the people. And if something's not working, the people can say, this isn't working. And they can all agree to change the code. And that's happened several times. It's happened to Bitcoin. It's happened to Ethereum many times over. So it's
still evolving.
It's still evolving.
But at least it's more... Because it feels like it's almost as if everyone's trying to help each other.
Yes.
Versus central banks and corporations have their own interests.
So the beautiful thing about this is, especially with the Ethereum community, so broad strokes, Ethereum is a network. It's a protocol. It has its own programming language, and it has its own currency. Its currency is Ether. It's a blockchain, so quickly as blockchain is ledger technology. So as you and I do transactions, as we transact, those transactions get recorded in data blocks, and they have specific sizes like megabytes or gigabytes or whatever. And once that's full, it gets encoded and linked up to the rest of the blocks on this chain of data. So that's a blockchain. Very high level what a blockchain is.
But incredibly important for anyone interested in decentralized finance.
Yep. Which
could be the next huge thing.
I think so. I think it will be. And so blockchain, I forget where I was going with this already.
But you're investing in these things.
Yeah. What is Ethereum? When you encode a block like that, when you encode a block of transactions, there's a reward. And so there's competition among miners to get that reward. And that has implications on its own. There's now game theory involved. It's not just an authoritative system determining like what the value of the currency is. It's people are competing for this on the base level, are competing for this currency. It's not you and me, but the miners. And so that implies, I mean, if you and I are competing for something, for a trophy even, we want to make sure the integrity of that trophy stays intact. We want to make sure that if it's a prestigious trophy, it needs to stay prestigious, or else our competition means nothing. Mm-hmm. If we're competing for cash, that cash needs to hold value, yes, or else our competition means nothing. We're not fighting for anything. We're not competing for anything, right? So
you'd be just like fiat currency, essentially.
So there is massive incentive to play the game by the rules so that you're still playing for something that's worthwhile. Okay, let's put that aside now. Ethereum is this massive network where
Joel, I'm just wondering if you just go to how are you investing?
Yeah.
And then folks, hang on, this is an opinion, not advice. and also to preface it, you're making small investments.
You're making small investments.
Because there's no security in any of this.
There's very little security. So this
isn't like your savings in a bank account where it's insured.
Yeah.
Here you could lose everything.
So I have some money in Bitcoin. I have some money in Ethereum. That Ethereum is in an ecosystem of different platforms it's generating it's passive income. Mm-hmm. So the reason why I got into a Bitcoin in the first place was sound money. The reason why I got into Ethereum was because I saw the opportunity for passive income, especially right now. It's not guaranteed, but the returns, like any other Wild West scenario, the returns can be incredibly lucrative. I have taken steps to mitigate some risk. So I'm not putting my money into the newest, freshest platform. I'm putting my money into a platform that has, I don't know what it was. I think it was about $1.5 billion already locked in. So that money is not coming out anytime soon. Mm-hmm. That's a heavy investment, mm-hmm, especially for the crypto space.
Right, but it's not a huge amount. It's not going to cripple you.
Yeah. So these platforms have been around for a while, and it's finance. It's lending, borrowing. The new thing would be staking or mining. So to generate, I don't want to get too technical, but it's like I could actually be involved in the Federal Reserve's money printing process. I actually have access to that process now in Ethereum.
Can you print us some more? Just us?
Yeah, I wish. And in that, the monetary policy anyway, I can now, I'm trying to think of the easiest way to describe this. I'm making a little bit of money every week, completely passively on these investments, because I've staked some Ethereum. So I've put my Ethereum into the quote unquote money printing process. That is a very inaccurate analogy, but it's the best one I have right now. And then they give you a token to prove that you have this stake. Taken that token and put that through a couple more systems, so people will lend it out and I get a return on it. And so I'm making some money on the stake, I'm making some money on the lending, and it compiles. So it's the term is money Legos. So there are these multiple different platforms that you can start stacking on one another that amplify your returns.
Oh, mercy.
It is not a simple thing to get a hold of. It's taken a lot of YouTube binging, and then doing this myself and to understand this process and to see if it will even work. And it is. It's slowly working. And that's just one process. There are too many platforms out there to mention.
Right.
And they're not going to.
It's like the early internet days. There are so many companies.
Yeah.
They're not all going to make it.
They're not all going to. Very few of them will make it.
Okay.
But the concepts are going to survive, and they're only going to get stronger.
Right. Because the interesting about, I'll make one final point about this is with the internet boom, .com bubble, like the companies that survived, like they were the ones that had like little inventory, little human cost to them, like low labor costs, right? Like grocery.com that failed, bagel.com that failed because it was massive capital investment. They needed people, stuff like that, versus like eBay, which had no inventory. They're just transactionary business. I think they're probably one of the most successful that went through the .com bubble burst, right? Because again, they have low costs, and it's fascinating stuff. But yeah, totally over my head.
the biggest piece. I mean, the money thing is one thing. The reason why I got into it was the passive income, but I'm staying because of the organizational structure. If you have a token in whatever platform, you then have a say in how that platform is governed. So this is where the decentralized part comes in. If you participate in the platform, you have a say in how it's governed. And we've tried that with political systems. We've tried that with business systems to some degree of success. But there's always a critical point of failure, and that is the humans at the center of it all. It's going to happen. There is no human at the center of this.
Yeah.
It's a computer program.
Yeah, because humans are fallible. Right?
And
they give influence. They have their own interests. It's just natural behavior. So who are you going to trust?
So trust is the perfect word. This is trustless. Yeah,
you don't have to trust anything.
Nope. You are. It's like this trust but verify kind of idea. Except it's like, no, I don't trust that any human is going to handle this properly. So I'm putting it into a system that doesn't require any trust in a human, which sounds really cold. But what happens is you now get a community who feels completely open to building together, because it's a lot harder to stab each other in the back. It can still happen. There are always holes. Humans are creating these systems. There's always going to be holes, and so it's never going to be perfect. This is not a perfect system.
Right. But their values are aligned.
Their values are aligned.
Right. The values are aligned to take this out of the control of central banks, corporations.
And even when they're not, there is room. There is room for dissent.
Of course.
And there is room for separation. So Bitcoin now has Bitcoin Cash. That was because there was a massive decision that had to be made in the Bitcoin decision, and a strong portion of the community did not want to evolve in the direction that the rest of the community wanted to. So now we have Bitcoin Cash as well as the original Bitcoin. Ethereum has the same thing. There's Ethereum Classic and Ethereum. They're actually the big problem at the root of Ethereum Classic was this rule of the law of code. It's like the people who stuck with Ethereum Classic thought that we should not change these smart contracts. We should not change the code to protect the people. We should allow the code to play out, and whatever happens, happens. Law of the jungle, law of the code. The majority of the Ethereum community did not agree. They made changes to the network and continued on. Ethereum is now worth several times what Ethereum Classic is worth. But there is still a community around Ethereum Classic and around Bitcoin Cash that still have an ecosystem. So even in the descent, even in the separation, it provides room for communities to exist that don't have the same values, and there still be economic benefit in those communities. It's a wild thing.
You're gonna figure this all out soon?
Well, I mean, how long did it take us to really turn on the internet and have massive onboarding? I don't know if it'll take the same amount of time for this. It's money. It's not just communication, right? So who knows? But
we'll have to keep learning.
Keep learning.
So Joel, before we start recording, I asked you, because I've been poking you about this. Because I often poke you, like, what does stock hacking meant to you? But it's not just stock hacking. It's about, like, what has this journey meant to you? And then you saw, again, before we were recording, I was showing a picture of you and your daughter on a presentation. Mm-hmm. Now, and that kind of reframed everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know stock hacking hasn't influenced your daily life. And then I shared with you before we were recording, I have a whole bunch of real estate. Mm-hmm. And I've almost kind of forgotten about it. Mm-hmm. It doesn't occupy that much of my space every day. But then now that I think about it, it's provided me so much peace, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't even know what I was thinking about. But if anything happens to me, my family's taken care of.
Peace of mind.
Right. And when my kids grow up, they're gonna easily have a down payment for a home. Easily, the university is paid for. Mm-hmm. Right. Just with the one property I bought them each.
Yep.
Right. So it's giving me a lot of peace. So yes, in that way, it affects my day to day. Now, over to you.
Yeah, I actually see a way to, first of all, my money's actually making money for me right now, which is incredible. That timeline has accelerated significantly for me, so I'm very thankful for that. Second of all, my daughter has making money for her, which is something that, like, goes beyond even what I'm making for myself. It's not, so a part of my stock hacking account is money I have saved up for my daughter. It all comes together in financial independence. I have a roadmap, and it's not just theoretical. So yeah, my day-to-day has been affected in the sense that I love looking at charts on a day-to-day basis, but I'm not drawing out cash flow on a monthly basis. However, it's definitely affected my future. My future looks so different from than from what it looked like even a year ago or 2 years ago. There is a pathway to financial peace for me, for my daughter, and for my family, because I am now kind of leading the way for my immediate family as well.
Your brothers and sisters.
My mom and my dad. That's the best feeling. The best feeling. That's what it's all meant to me.
That's pretty cool. So Joel, where can people follow you?
Yeah.
No email addresses?
No email addresses. At Joel Makes Money on Instagram. Same handle on Twitter, although I haven't been as active on Twitter lately. But those are the two. That's where I get to talk about money, investing, business. And so if you want to talk about stock hacking, crypto, and real estate, I still love talking about real estate. Find me on Instagram and Twitter.
Yeah, because remember when I first met you, you said I could talk about real estate all day.
Yeah, legit.
I'd love to talk. I'd love to be in a position to talk to real estate all day.
Yeah.
Any final words for millennials? Anyone who feels lost out there?
Yeah. If you're feeling lost financially, I'm imagining you probably are scared to look at your bank account. You have to get over that fear and look at it daily, not as a comparison, but as a measure of, I'll just say health. I'll use the term health as a very loose term, because once you get used to looking at it and managing your money, this is something I had to deal with. This is coming from a personal place. Still have to sometimes. So I got used to looking at my bank account and not getting stressed out by it. I could start to take control of it, which the small steps were not spending as much on certain things, looking for ways to increase my income. And then the whole financial journey becomes possible. But you have to become comfortable thinking about your finances on a regular basis and being honest about them. And that's where it starts. And that applies to anybody, if you're a barista or if you're making six figures at a tech startup. Because if you're blowing your money and you're making six figures, you're still terrified of money. Mm-hmm. And once you get over that fear, but the only way to get over that fear is to face it. And that's what I had to do, and still have to do consistently. So
pretty cool. I hope more people listen to that message. All right, Joel, thanks so much for doing this.
Absolutely. Thank you for everything.